Hello, everybody. Nice to have you along for the ride. This is Miguel, and I just wanted to say hello and welcome you today. I hope you're all feeling well. What a glorious day it is outside. It's really stupendously beautiful, and I'm appreciating that. You know, one of the things about the world is that it is just so beautiful. And I contemplate this idea quite so often, quite very often. Like, what is it about the world that makes it necessarily so beautiful? And in fact, I think it's a unique fact. The world is just absolutely brilliantly beautiful in so many ways. The sky, the grass, the trees, the land. It's so beautiful. And the beauty is beautiful at the macro level and at the micro level. It's beautiful in the middle level. It's just totally beautiful. And when I'm looking at nature, I see beauty uh, in that's extremely deep at the, like I was mentioning, at the macro and micro scale. But there's beauty everywhere. It's just everywhere, and it's also quite beautiful, starkly beautiful. Like on a scale from 1 to 10, it is a 10 in terms of beauty. So many things are beautiful. I mean, a tree, a plant, a mold, even a bacteria or a virus, or there are just so many things that are in the world that are. The sun is beautiful, the moon is beautiful, the plants. I mean, other humans, beautiful, just beautiful. And I think it's a puzzle to me why the world has to be so beautiful when, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to. And of course, I also admit that there's some parts of reality that aren't that beautiful. Um, but it almost kind of depends on how you look at it. I mean, I think about deserts. Deserts are quite beautiful, but a lot of people might not have a preference for a desert. And in their eyes, a desert might be pretty sparse. Um, Sometimes the thing about reality is that it's quite neutral, right? And so the great thing about reality is partly is that it allows us to sort of overlay our attitudes about it on top of it, and it gives us total freedom in help in sort of allowing us to sort of overlay our attitudes. We could say that something is ugly just as well as we could say that something is beautiful. Uh, Nature is just that neutral, that allows us humans to place whatever judgment on it that we want. And um, really, I guess I'm answering the question, my own question about why the world is so beautiful, and that is because I'm generating those attitudes from within me. In fact, a lot could be said for that particular perspective, and that is, um, a lot of what we see on the outside is what has happening on the inside. And I think I'm a real proponent of that belief. Now, of course, there might be the facts of the case, so to speak. There might be like objective scientific facts, and those facts, when it comes to moral judgment, they'll remain stable and stationary and permanent through all of time. I suppose. The facts that will be, the facts that are, and the facts that have been. All those facts are enduring, and they are enduring forever. Now, of course, here's the thing. I'm qualifying the word enduring that I'm using because the fact is that the future doesn't exist yet, and the past, it doesn't exist at all. So, but our memories of the past are real, and our imaginings of the future are also real. And that's what I'm referring to as being real. Not that you can touch and feel it necessarily with your hands or see it with your eyes. I'm talking about that sort of internal sense of reality. And like I said earlier, nature allows us to overlay our attitudes upon it. And it's just, I don't know. So I guess another way to phrase my question is why, why do I see the world as beautiful as it is? And kind of funny, what's kind of funny about that is that I'm not sure where I came up with that idea or whether I don't think it has anything much to do with me, which is odd. When when I give it just a little more thought, I recognize, yes, it has everything to do with me. Honestly, I don't know. It may have to do with our cultural heritage that we basically gain from our ancestors and our learning in school, and it's just a belief that's been passed down for generations, tens of thousands of generations. And I imagine different species have different conceptions of what's beautiful. I'm sure there's dog beauty and cat beauty and bird beauty and beetle beauty and ant beauty. And I would not, I guess I'd not guess that, but I would guess that in each of those cultures, like the elephant culture and the whale culture and the seal culture, each of those cultures, that beauty is just as real as it is to me. Now, I might be able to express it verbally, and I might even be able to duplicate it through artistic work. Um, but it may be that these other animals, um, they don't have the ability to do that. Like, I don't know if a dog can be artistic, but I'm sure there is artistic according to his species, according to their species. There's dog artistry, and I'm sure that is totally real. Just as there's horse artistry and chicken artistry, lizard artistry. Sure, why not? Why not? And I'm sure. Here's the thing: with reality happening all around us, we've got to do problem solving, and the only way that we can problem solve is through artistry. It's through our creativity, and yeah. So ants, I'm sure, are amazing artists. Just look at their ant hills. They're they are definitely doing. They're onto something there, and I guess one could argue that it's largely genetic, but you could do the same thing. You could argue the same way for human beings and their creativity and artistry. So yeah, I'm really actually encouraged by the whole idea that, but there's also a danger in that idea. See, the idea, I was encouraged by the idea that we formulate the beauty or the ugliness of the world in our own minds first, before we sort of present it to the world or project it onto the world. Um, that's wonderful, and at the same time can be particularly dangerous. And it's dangerous for a good reason, and that is that it's somewhat arbitrary, right? And it's our choice. And since that is true, you can make a heaven out of hell or a hell out of heaven. Shakespeare, I think Shakespeare was correct. And I'm not so sure if Shakespeare actually did come up with that phraseology, but that's the first person that's coming to mind as the person who probably made it popular or known about how we can make our own heaven and hell. And that's popularly known. I'm sure I can imagine the Stoics saying something very similar. I can also imagine other wise people in the past saying similar things. So I'm not suggesting that it's just that person, but it was Shakespeare, no doubt, was a popularizer of that idea just because of his influence on other people. He had a wide-ranging effect across many cultures. And so that's the only reason that I really talk about him. Although the Stoics also had particularly ideas that were in particular quite popular. Anyway, at least for those people at the time. But I'm going beyond the subject a little bit. The subject has to do with the beauty of nature. And I guess I'm sort of arriving at the idea that the beauty of nature has a lot to do whether we think it has a lot, whether it's true or not, has a lot to do with how we're feeling in the moment, certainly, but maybe even how we're feeling long term, because I'm sure there are moods established around those ideas. And so they're persistent emotions. So my thinking is that, yeah, it is a subjective evaluation, how we subjectively say that the earth is beautiful and the universe is. And, that's just the way it is, and it's interesting to note that we could change our mind at any time. And I'm sure some folks have. Yeah. And let me tell you, as a human being, it doesn't take much to change our minds. For some, particularly those with ADHD or other attention deficit disorders or any kind of, maybe a mental illness, I think it'd be easy to turn it around. It's very easy to see all the sadness in the midst of all the opportunity, all the tragedy in the midst of the happiness. It's really easy to do, mainly because human beings, we're good at conceptual thinking, and part of conceptual thinking is generalization. And if we can generalize everything as all good, we can equally generalize everything as all bad. So, if we have a cognitive filter, we can cognitively filter all the positive things or cognitively filter all the negative things. Now, it just so happens we tend to cognitively filter all the negative things because, well, nature is more interested in our survival than our happiness. And that is definitely true when it comes to something like beauty, because really, how is beauty necessary? Now, isn't it wonderful how quite often, but not always, beauty aligns with truth? Well, that is actually quite odd. I wouldn't necessarily expect that particular thing to be true. And it may not actually be true. I could really imagine it not actually be true, that there is no real alignment between beauty and truth. Because even that seems pretty arbitrary. Truth may be beautiful because we define it that way. It's sort of like a chicken and egg type situation. And I think that's a totally reasonable stance. That is that uncertainty as to whether truth is beautiful. Truth is beautiful because it's right, or truth isn't. Yeah. So anyway, I just think it's pretty interesting. Now, from an artist perspective, I want to think about art. Now, artists are constantly asking the question, do I enjoy this? Do I like this? Is this fun for me? And so in a way, we as artists are in the habit of looking for beauty in the world around us. We are, in fact, almost by definition, appreciators of beauty. And there's all kinds of different kinds of beauty. Of course, there's musical beauty, poetic beauty, literary beauty. There's all kinds of beauty. There's artistic beauty. It really covers huge swaths of cultural ideas. And, that's wonderful. But, artists, we have our own way, right? Here's the thing, though, of course, because like I mentioned earlier, because everyone is a problem solver, we all need creativity. And partly because of that, we all have the ability to be artists, because what is an artist if an artist isn't creative? So there are just various folks who spend a lot of time developing this particular part of their personality. And there's a lot of different ways to develop it. You could develop it as an inventor. You could develop it as a scientist. You could be a scientific artist, certainly. And there are a lot of media to use. It could be coloring through crayons, or watercolors, or pastels, or oils. Pencils, the list goes on and on. And yeah, in fact, it's kind of funny. Creativity is just so incredibly important for human beings, because we need to solve a lot of problems. In fact, human beings are like problem solving machines. We're very good at figuring out an answer, especially when there's no answers available. We'll create mysteries and explore them, certainly if they're meaningful or they have a lot of meaning in the world to us. We'll put a lot of energy into finding answers to questions, and that's just how we operate. So what I like to do is I like to think that all humans are artists, and I would also like to think that generally it's that there are people who are aware of their artistry and those who are particularly not aware of their artistry. I mean, I guess I boiled it down to one thing. If you're interested in solving problems, maybe you have a certain set of values, then your life is essentially a masterwork, right? It's your creation, your behaviors. And in fact, you can call your behaviors in the form of like an event, as you can call your behavior as a form of artistry. And no doubt that um, makes a lot of sense to me. In a way, every movement could be an artistic movement. Every step one takes, every blink that one blinks with their eyebrows, or eyeballs, or eyelids. Really, it's very quite simple to create art in the world. It's our unique expression, right? Guided by our values. So yeah, if you have the ability to act and you have values associated with things that are good or bad for you, beautiful or not beautiful, then you're definitely an artist, whether you acknowledge so or not. Yeah, if you've got the ability to make decisions and the ability to solve problems, then by goodness, you are certainly an artist. And congrats, you're an artist of your own life. Now, one of the tenets of art is, through our observation of beauty, quite often we'll make judgments about whether objects or events sort of match our conceptions or preconceptions of what beauty ought to be. And that's just also part of our daily life. We're constantly looking at beauty around us, judging it, and moving forward as we make decisions. And that's how we operate, because we had no way. If we stopped problem solving today, I mean, imagine what would happen if I stopped problem solving this very moment. Well, I'd probably not get out of my chair again. Why would I? It takes more energy. um, I would probably just sort of go mute. I mean, why not? I mean, I can't. If I can't solve problems, then I can't communicate with other people, because I can't get from point A to point B in my arguments. Nor can I move, because moving requires the making of a decision to move, and you can only do that in the light of having certain values associated with sort of a pro movement value, right? For your own long-term self-interest, right? That's I can't imagine proceeding or being an artist without the ability to solve problems. So anyway, I guess again I solved my own question. But I wish I could sort of elaborate it in a clear way about why I think that the universe is as beautiful as it is. Because it is just so absolutely miraculous. I can't put my hands around just how absolutely beautiful the world is. Um, it might have something to do with just the nature of our sensations that have evolved over time. I mean, really, there have to be Roy G. Biv, ROYGBIV? Does there have to be 7 colors in the rainbow, in the spectrum? No, there doesn't. Now, are there 7 colors in the spectrum? No, there clearly isn't. Not if, in fact, there's an infinite number. as colors vary according to wavelength. And so, yeah, there's an infinite number of colors. And, each color is beautiful in its own way. I mean, that's right there, just in the medium or mode of visual eyesight. I've already identified an infinite number of things that are beautiful, and that is all the colors in the entire spectrum. And that's just because we can see it. Now, is every noise beautiful? I don't know about that. I don't think so. There are a lot of folks who are sensitive to noise. Is every touch enjoyable and beautiful as well? Well, not necessarily. It's hard. It's almost as if there's like the senses are different. There's just something absolutely different between, say, vision and olfactory senses. It is kind of weird. I could easily say that every color in and of itself is beautiful. I have no problem saying that. But I mean, the reality may be less real. I mean, is olive green really a beautiful color? I guess it depends on context, right? When olive green is used as face paint on top of, say, a person who's trying to turn himself into Frankenstein, then he's not as beautiful, at least theoretically, right? I'm sure there are beautiful Frankensteins out there. And the thing is that, yeah, we all have our own subjective notions of what beauty is. And it's just as subjective, I suppose, to say that for the spectrum of colors is both at the same time an infinite number of beautiful things and an infinite number of ugly things. Why not? Again, like I was mentioning, this is just a feature of the human brain. And we conceptualize by generalizing, and that's just how we operate in the world. And now we also have a tendency to overgeneralize. It comes with the territory, and just as well, we can undergeneralize as well. I mean, that's not particularly hard to do. We just have to. We sort of have to neglect to include certain items into our circle of our concept. So by definition is how we do that. By definition. So anyway, yeah. So are we lucky, first of all, to have beauty in the first place? There's something about beauty. Now, I don't know if it's real or not, but it's definitely intriguing. And beauty is something that draws us nearer, right? In a way, it's kind of like fun. There's like a physical beauty, which is like fun. I should say like an action-oriented type beauty. I don't know. Really, you could play it any way. There's just an infinite number of ways to play it. Just as are there an infinite number of colors. There's probably an infinite number of behaviors, an infinite number of thoughts, an infinite number of mathematics. And it's really up to us to determine whether us as individuals, whether something is truly beautiful or not. And there's a lot of variation. I mean, I can imagine the Gaussian curve relating to beauty. For some people, they like the look of that car, whereas I wouldn't think twice about that car. Yeah. We're human beings. As human beings, we're a pretty curious bunch. And, I think it trips us up sometimes. Like, I know there's a lot of mistrust in the media these days, and it has been for a long time, ever since social media came on the scene. And there have been other problems, of course, with mistrust. And, that started as early as, newspapers or before, or speakers or before that. And so, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to sort of understand beauty in all of its facets. It's not an easy thing to do necessarily. At least what's not easy to do, to justify your position sometimes. That's not to say it's not valid, because indeed a position on beauty, no matter what it is, I imagine it's quite valid. And I'm not going to invalidate someone's judgment about whether something is beautiful or ugly. They're just using different standards that I might be using. And that's why I think partly that's why art is a great equalizer. And I think it's why it attracts a lot of people too, because art is really also about fun, enjoyment, and sometimes it's like what comes out on the other side, whatever it is. It gives us a sense of empowerment. It helps us find our peace. It helps us make decisions. Yeah. Yeah, those traits are really helpful. I don't know why I'm so yawning. Why am I yawning so much? Unclear right now. But, even yawning could be considered quite beautiful, interestingly enough. Well, why wouldn't it be? I know a lot of animals. I can visualize them right now, like hippopotamuses, and I can imagine a lot of animals, like horses, maybe yawning. Yeah, seals. Yeah, it is a beautiful behavior, and it's so natural, right? Every living thing, except for like animals, like I'm sorry, except for plants. Oh, excuse me. Except for plants or viruses or bacteria or molds and fungi. Yeah. There are some things that just don't have conceptualizations of, of things that are beautiful or unbeautiful. I think it's probably related to whether a certain animal has a brain or not. Like I can imagine like a whale. It has a brain very similar to ours, just larger. There are such things as beautiful underwater spaces and ugly underwater spaces. Yeah. Yeah. But I wouldn't necessarily think that a single celled organism knows beauty like we know beauty. But who knows? Maybe it knows beauty in a certain way, like a gradation. A gradient. Maybe a bacteria would find a gradation in, like, say, osmotic pressure through a cell wall or something like that as being beautiful. I mean, it's very possible. I would imagine that a virus, once it infected a cell, would consider itself either the cell beautiful or itself beautiful for having sort of conquered the cell and destroyed it. I'd imagine there's some kind of viral beauty. But like I said, the problem, that's kind of a stretch because, first of all, I can't relate to anything that doesn't have neurons. I can imagine or guess what being a rock might be, or being just like a DNA enclosed around proteins. I could imagine what that feels like, so to speak, using my powers of empathy. But who knows if that's any true in any way? Yeah. So I don't know. We human beings, like I mentioned, we are pretty judgmental at times, and we'll judge things as being beautiful or not beautiful in a split second. Well, that's actually another point. I mean, we're able to do it in very quickly. It's not like it takes us 1 minute or 5 minutes to determine whether something is beautiful or not. Now, it might take us that amount of time if somehow we need to collaborate with other people. But I'm talking about our own evaluations of what's happy and what's not. Or beautiful, what's beautiful or what's not. I don't know. What's kind of funny is when I've been doing these online videos, I have started to yawn, and it's kind of funny. I seem to remember having this particular habit a long time ago. I think it has to do with the context. I don't think it's necessarily indicative of something real. I think it's somewhat habitual. I mean, I don't know. I did get a lot of sleep last night, but I didn't get like a lot of sleep. So anyway, I think I'm just going to move on to something else now. I am getting tired, which is kind of funny. It's like I just had dinner. So maybe like we got some melatonin moving along. Maybe I'm feeling a little sluggish because of what I ate. All those things could be true. So, oh man, but yeah, I do feel a little tired. Why that is, I don't know particularly why that is. I've been trying to get some more rest lately, and I've been challenged to get more rest. It's not easy for me. I'm fine. I'm actually easy energized. I have a nervous system that is easily energized, and I could get up in the morning like nothing, like nobody's business. But I guess I'd sometimes suffer sometime during the day. Anyway, I'm going to pause this right now, and I'm gonna get a glass of water. So I hope you have a wonderful day today, and I'll talk to you later. Huh? Okay. Bye bye.